Hello and welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. I'm going to presume we're live. And just introduce everyone. Welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. We're back again with the Renegade Master.
Yay.
And this week we've got a guest, Masuku. How are you doing?
Hello, good people. I'm doing good, and I'm always very happy to be invited to the show. So thank you again for inviting me here.
It's good to have you on. It's always a good chat when you're on the show. It's been a while. Well, it's been since last year.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. It makes it sound like a long time ago when you say last year. It wasn't that.
It's one of the most hectic times in the year. So yeah, it feels like ages.
It definitely is.
But it's good that everybody survived the partying and so on.
Yeah, it's all over. Everyone spends far too much money and chucks most of their food away. That's what, that's what happens.
And now it's the time for New Year's promises and losing the weight and so on, as you guys know.
All right, calm it down. I only padded on a little bit.
And also we have joining us because he was free tonight. We have LukeSteele on the show. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I had some spare time. I thought I'll come on here and slag Indiana Jones off, and then I'll leave probably. No, I won't. But we will talk about it, so that'll be good.
Yeah, good to have you on. And VJ, thanks for coming back on. It's always good to have you on, VJ, and get your perspectives.
Yep, thanks for having me on the show, Mr. Stubbs. Yeah, and nice to have Luke and Masuko join us. Should spice things up a little bit, and of course, it's never the same without Mr. Sanity on as well.
That's very
true. Yeah.
It's very true. Well, welcome back, Removable Sanity.
Thank you much for having me on. Yes, much appreciated. It's always good to have a good conversation with everybody, and it's going to be even better to have that we have now, obviously, Luke and Masuka on to give us their opinions, argue with us, and basically tell me to be quiet. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, it will be. So we had the
miracle.
So we had the Developer Direct, Xbox Developer Direct. Was it last week? Last Wednesday, Thursday?
Certainly made an impression on you then.
Well, I didn't see. I didn't watch it live. I've only recently finished watching it. I didn't actually watch it live like everyone else. I watched it after the fact. I didn't watch any reaction shows like like live. While it's on, I don't watch them. But yeah, there was a few games. Obviously, Xbox have now got into the, which is a good thing. They've got into the idea of now for setting expectations. But I did see some people trying to say there was going to be some surprises and so on, and there wasn't. But they're getting quite good at setting expectations, basically letting you know what's going to be there and what's not going to be there, which is a good thing, because when you don't set expectations, people expect all sorts and are disappointed. It's like some people were expecting Gears of War, and I knew it wasn't happening, but you know what people are like sometimes.
Just say you're disappointed. Come on.
I'm not disappointed. I'm actually
not anymore. It's just that's it. It's just it's going to go full PC.
Well, a lot of that. It was actually a PC game there was. But we'll talk about Indiana. What do people think to Indiana Jones? After I was educated by Scott and Luke as to why Todd Howard was actually speaking on the Indiana Jones. With Todd though, I often zone out because he does waffle a lot. And I rewatched it, and then he says it was his idea. He made the deal and everything. So Todd Howard is the executive producer. for the game, even though he probably does it remotely to work with the studio because Machine Games is in Sweden. But I really have got to give them the credit. I mean, Indiana Jones, it's coming out this year sometime, and it looks really good. But you can see just from the clip on the screen now, it really looks like Wolfenstein. In the face, because that guy there looked German. Yeah, like the Wolfenstein games. The problem is for me, I haven't watched Indiana Jones since I was a kid. I can't remember anything about them whatsoever.
Oh my god!
But I do think the game looks incredible, and I reckon Masuko, what do you think to Indiana Jones? Have you seen the trailers, or have you not seen the game?
Yes. Yeah, I watched them, and I would have to say that the presentation and the people interviewed for the clip was, I think it was pretty professionally done, and it's I don't know what's the thing about Howard. It seems like it's some kind of like a passion project for him, since he's so much hands-on with this one. Like I haven't heard him speak about this passionately about that many games that he has been guiding the studios through. Or how do you guys feel about that one? Haven't I just heard him been talking that much?
It was Starfield before, weren't it? That he was passionate about, and now he's
Yeah.
has he done it?
Yeah.
He's
But if you would compare them, do you feel that he's more passionate about indie than Starfield?
he's probably more passionate about this game.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I think he knows this game's going to probably do very well. It will. I would say.
Ooh, that's a big leap to make.
This will probably do much better than Starfield. There you go. I said it.
Dubs chose violence today.
But it's a good point. Like or at least for me, like this. This Indiana Jones. It's a personality. And Starfield is not exactly a personality game. It has a world. It has character creation. So it can never be as focused like a single character that the story have been built around. So I think a little bit different types of games. And
Yeah. So would this be a game you're going to play as it's part of Game Pass as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I like machine games in general. They are making like this kind of high intensity games, and normally they play out well, controls well. Normally the performance is very good, and the guys have been normally in the forefront of many technologies with their games. So I think they started to use like I think they were starting to use
mocap,
DLSS, and many stuff like quite in the forefront. And I think in general they have good tech teams.
Seem to, because in that video they were using mocap for all they had stunt people in. They did, so it looks to be very good. It's a good introduction to the game, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I am hopeful that it's going to be good. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be a good game. But let's hear what Luke is
Chomping at the
holding
bits.
his tongue about.
Yeah, no, I
Because
mean,
maybe, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it looks good. I just wasn't. I don't know. I just expected to be really blown away by it. Maybe this is like a me problem. You know what I mean? Like expectations. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of indie. I've watched the films multiple times. And I think in terms of tone and humor, like it absolutely nails it. And I'd expect the Machine Games game to do that, right? Because their writing is really good. Anybody who's played the Wolfenstein games knows
Mhm.
how good they are
Yeah,
with
that's a
that.
good
And
point.
it's a game filled with Nazis, and they're really great at letting you kill and mutilate Nazis. So there probably won't be as much mutilation in this one, but there will be some Nazi bashing, which is great. So all of that looked great. I think that the bits I was maybe not disappointed on, slightly underwhelmed by, I actually thought visually it was a little underwhelming. And I only say that because I think if you go back to especially the second Wolfenstein game, at the time that was really at the kind of top end of the market in terms of visuals. They were really pushing visuals in that game. And I don't feel like this even matches what that was doing. I think it's quite close, but it doesn't feel as advanced as Wolfenstein did. That could be for various reasons, and it's not out yet, so it's going to have a lot of polish before it's out. But yeah, just something about the look of it. I don't know if it was maybe some of the lighting, some of the character models. It didn't blow me away as I expected it to, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt until it launches anyway. Again, I was kind of expecting that it to look very, very good because it's using id Tech, which is obviously id Software's engine. They used it on Wolfenstein 2 as well, and I just thought, yeah, current gen, machine games using id Tech again. I just thought it would look more stunning than it does. It doesn't look bad by any means.
I
It
think
just
you're
doesn't
looking at it
look.
as more like a plasticine sort of type
Yeah,
characters
I don't know whether it's
versus more
just.
realistic, but which works well for the Wolfenstein games because they have created characters that suit that style. But now it's
Yeah,
almost as this photorealism put into a kind of slight plasticine aspect, so it looks
yeah,
probably slightly off, isn't it? That's what, at least that's what I'm
yeah.
gauging. It's like it's trying to be photorealistic, but I don't think the engine was built for photorealistic. It's built for a specific type of character visuals, which it suits perfectly to all the Wolfensteins.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's going for hyperrealism, this, which is that kind of, highly detailed, but not quite photorealistic look. And a lot of high-end AAA games go for that look, right? But Wolfenstein was exactly the same. I think the point around characters is probably accurate in that, Wolfenstein, BJ Blazkowicz, and all the characters were completely created characters. So you don't have any reference to compare them to when you look at them.
No,
They don't look
exactly.
off. Whereas I think obviously this one, they're going for the likeness of Harrison Ford, and I think in some scenes he looks pretty good, and in other scenes he doesn't look great. So for example, I think the main antagonist character model looks fantastic compared to Harrison Ford's model and some of the supporting characters. So yeah, I don't know. It just looks slightly off. Just not bad visually. Like it's a good looking game. I'm not saying that. I just expected more. It'd be interesting to see if they're using the newest id Tech engine or whether actually you're gonna get, you'll see the kind of fruits of that when id actually release their next game. Maybe this is just running on a the old version to speed up development. But yeah, apart from that and the first person perspective, which I think people have different views on anyway. I did think it looked really good. I'm very much looking forward to it anyway. But yeah, it just underwhelmed, and I usually I don't get underwhelmed by machine games. So
Okay. It's I'm sure that obviously they've got months and months of polish to go. It could be a lot better by then, obviously.
oh yeah,
It
I'd
could
expect
be.
it to be. Yeah.
Well, I think this game is a very different game from what they're used to. This isn't a full-on action. Every scene is an action-packed, shoot-a-thon. I'll use it as a kind of term. This is very much a different sort of game for them. It's very much a slow. It seems more of a slower paced, more methodical, more puzzle orientated, more sort of game. When you're obviously used to seeing Wolfenstein, which is basically walk in with some guns and blow the hell out of Nazis, and how that translates. So I think it's probably unnerving for some people because it is, you're used to a developer who's built a reputation based on one thing, and it's slightly shifting to doing something different, something else, and something different. And as you said, with the character models, this is a slightly older engine, not the latest engine, so it's where you can see how that. I don't know. I'm a bit like Luke, to be honest with you. I was a little bit underwhelmed when looking at it. It's like what is there looks promising, but it's currently a little underwhelming, for me at least. And they also mentioned the one thing which is just, for me, it just puts the back of my hairs up. They said, and I could be misquoting this, so please forgive me. It was we're trying to tell the story for modern audiences, and that is always like a red flag for me. When anyone says, "Oh, we're trying to retell or tell something for the modern audience," it worries me that you're going to be walking away from the lore, and the ethos of that entire built up there. And that's what's, for me, I've seen all the indie films. The last couple of films have slightly done that. It feels like they're trying to tell indie from a modern audience, and it's like the people who enjoy indie Anna prefer his original films. They don't like the kind of the retelling of it or kind of tweaking of the lore and what it is for the modern audiences. I think so. I'm slightly worried after seeing some of the later films, if this is the ethos they're going to go down. It's like, oh god. It was a red flag for me. The moment I heard that, I was like, oh god, no, please don't. Just stay to the first, second, or third one. Just stick with those. Give us
Don't stick to Temple of Doom. I don't think anyone wants Temple. I watched Temple of Doom last night, actually.
That's the second one, isn't it?
Yeah, I forgot how.
I think it has its own place. I don't think it's the best, without a doubt, but I think it has its own place within the series.
I think I'm more talking about the depiction of certain nationalities in that film, which is
oh yeah, no, that was obviously a film of its time. No, yeah. But I mean, in terms of what the ethos of the actual genre, the sometimes the funny quips, the one-liners, the silliness, the slight build-up I found to the cinematic overblown pieces, it'd have like almost like an up and down. It's almost like a roller coaster as you went through that, and I'm worried that that's going to be kind of lost in this game, to a degree, where it's like, this is what it's going to be, and it's like, oh, do we really want it to be that? My worry is it's going to turn into like an RPG.
No, I don't think so. I think first of all, when they were talking about modern audiences, I think they were referring the broader context of games. Indiana Jones games. Modern audiences haven't seen an Indiana Jones game for a long time.
I hope that's what it means. It's just that terminology has been used so many times, and the connotation attached to it now is not a good one.
And I think also, if you look at, say, the last film, and then also Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, in terms of the broad strokes of the adventure, those are very similar to the first three films. Particularly Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where those films go wrong, or where they become kind of vitriolic in the fan base, is because they're just absurd. They become too absurd and too ridiculous.
It's a caricature of themselves, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
they've got the pathway, and then they've just gone, well, let's make a caricature of that pathway. And it's like, no, you could have just stuck with the pathway, the simple route you had in the first instance. Don't try to. Oh, it's easily it becomes like a caricature of a character. He's become like a. In the films, I felt like Indiana was looking through the eyes of someone else playing for himself. When it's like, what? It felt like he was almost out of his body, looking at someone else playing himself. And I was like, it didn't feel like him in that case. And as you said, it felt just like absurd. When, in a way, I don't get it wrong, Indiana Jones always had its slight absurd moments, but they were pretty much more grounded in reality to a degree, wasn't it? It was. There was like something, I'm trying to think of the best one. It is the Covenant of the Ark. There was absurdness to it, but it was rooted in the ethos of where they were going with it.
Yeah, and I mean, this one takes place. I think it's
in between, isn't it?
Raiders and Last Crusade. So at least timeline wise, it's going to be pretty faithful to those. And Todd Howard did the story treatment for this, or the story concept, so I suspect he's he is.
I'm hoping, you're right. I'm hoping he's probably got between those ones. But it's a colour thing, as I said. It's like you slightly the engine, the graphics. Then there's that catchphrase. It's just me. As again, it's probably more me thing. It's like, ooh, red flag. Then there was a slight. As I said to you, we was mentioning this previously in the background before we came on the show. I said like the voice work. I literally thought it was an AI voice work because it felt really close, but it felt slightly different. And it wasn't until you guys mentioned that it was done by Troy Baker that it's like, okay, clearly not Harrison Ford, but it's like, for me, that's also slightly jarring because it's so close, it's good, but because it's so close, it's slightly, but it's not perfect, it's slightly jarring as well. So it's like, that's probably more of a me issue than anything else, He's definitely got the mannerisms and voice work of Harrison Ford down. But as I said, it's just something slightly different where I kind of wonder whether it would have been better to go with all of like the Metal Gear Solid sort of situation where they replaced Snake and they literally got almost like a voice actor that was just different.
Yeah,
even though it was
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, it was Kiefer Sutherland.
But then he wasn't very good. So.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is it wasn't as jarring. Well, at least it wasn't for me. It was just like, okay, we know there's a different person playing this voice. Fine. There was no way replacing him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but then you run into, it's gonna be even more jarring because if they would have to effectively change the character model, you couldn't do a Harrison Ford lookalike with a non-Harrison Ford voice.
This is true.
Just be horrible.
This is true. Yeah. So, do you think then actually? In a way, would it be better to try and get an AI sort of voice work to try and get?
No, I mean, in an ideal world, well, not an ideal world.
When I say not an AI, I mean, for instance, if you look at Top Gun, the latest Top Gun film, the guy who plays Iceman, I can't think of his name. My apologies. He actually had Val Kilmer. He has actually had like throat cancer, so he couldn't talk. So what they did there was they got his son to do the voice work, and then they did AI over the top of that from previous films, so that it actually came out and sounded like him. And to be fair, it did. It absolutely sounded like him, even though he couldn't talk throughout that film. I was wondering if that's something they could have used on this one. Always from future things they could do.
Yeah, but I mean, Kilmer in Maverick only had a few lines, and he was an important character, obviously, to the franchise. So it made sense that a guy that can't speak anymore, you actually, if you want him to be a part of the film, which they did, then there's got to be an alternative to that. So in that case, it was a great use of technology. to have him represented in the film. If that, in this game, I mean, I'd probably shoot myself if I had to hear an AI generated Harrison Ford. Not to mention the ethical problems that brings with it. But what I was expecting, I wasn't actually expecting them to do a Harrison Ford take on this. I was kind of thinking they might do like a new take on Indiana Jones. So I think what they've done is probably the best thing they could do, which is get his likeness and then get someone who can deliver a good Harrison Ford tone and intonation, but who's actually an extremely capable voice actor. Because I'm sure.
Oh yeah, without doubt, he did. As I said, I would have known, but it was just something was off, and I was like,
yeah,
easy. And it's only then I realised it was Troy Baker. So he's done a brilliant job, without doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could get someone who is an expert Harrison Ford sound-alike.
Oh yeah,
but they probably wouldn't be anywhere near as good of a voice actor as Troy Baker is. So
exactly, without doubt, he has
got
it down to
some of the,
yeah.
You sacrifice some of the likeness in terms of voice.
Or the quality.
For a quality voice actor, basically. So yeah, I mean, he's exceptional. So I think that for what they've done, I think it's really good. Really good.
It is. So, VJ, what do you think about this Indiana Jones game from what you've seen?
I haven't really played many of Machine Games, their games in the past. I think I've tried Wolfenstein. I didn't really sort of enjoy it too much. It just didn't sit with me. But I can appreciate what they do and how they do, and I think they've got quite a good following, right, for their games as well. But I think with Bethesda's, besides the studio that Todd Howard runs, I never ever felt that when they showed the trailer a couple of years ago, was it a CG trailer, sort of like a teaser? At the time and I never thought that the studio was going to receive $200 million in 5 years, using with all their specialties and creating FPS games, and then be given that time to sort of repurpose it for a full-on third-person engine to compete with some of the top-end games that are out there. And you can notice that, right, just from, so I think Luke mentioned it, some of the third-person animations seem a little, let's just say, not as smooth as many of the games that we get to play today. So I mean, for me, I think Luke was talking about the visuals, what was off. But for me, when I saw the game, I have no issues with it. I'm going to play it. It's in Game Pass, and I'm sure it'll be fun and give it a go. But when I saw it switching between first person and third person, I thought of Resident Evil 4 and the GameCube and remake in terms of the visual close-ups. And then I played a game called Call of the Sea. I don't know if you know it. And then I thought the puzzles sort of reminded me of the perspective and everything, and the sorts of puzzles of a high-end Call of the Sea. And then when I saw the facial likeness, the first thing, and it's just I mean, I can't help what pops in my head. I thought they'd scanned the Hot Toys figure from for Harrison Ford and stuck it in the game. But look, don't be fooled. Sort of. The amount of time it would have taken them to really sort of produce the sort of game that we can only imagine would have cost a lot of money, would have taken a lot of time, and to convert an engine or even get used to a new engine, and especially with the studio expertise, all focused on FPS, design, production, the technical difficulties to make it what I don't know, for lack of a better choice, an Uncharted sort of game. It was going to be really difficult, and I don't think they would. I'm assuming this game was greenlit before Microsoft got involved, so they, I don't think the budget is as high as we think it is. I don't think the runtime for the game will be as long as we think it is, and you can level the same sort of how can I put, expectation of Blade from is it Arcane from Leon. They're not going to get 4 or 5 years or $150-200 million budget, because they've never handled that sort of budget, and to rebuild the studio, rebuild their expertise to make Blade again, it's something that and that's early on, right? Are Microsoft really going to trust the studio to give them that money and that time to produce a really good Blade game? I want it to be really good. But I think we can look at Indiana Jones and comment on the visuals, the voice work, the acting and everything, and the tech, and so on and so forth. But I think for what it is, and for the following that Machine Games have, and probably a modest budget that they've got or have had, and I mean, I didn't see anything saying this was, all in engine. I'm assuming it's, rendered in engine, right? So there's lots of post visual effects. So I don't know how much better it will look when you're actually playing it, but it will be interesting to see. And I think out of all of the 4 or 5 games that they showed, I think this was the most interesting for me. But I'm kind of like in Final Fantasy Rebirth mode at the moment, preparing myself for that game to come, and enjoying some others in between. But yeah, I think it looks good, and I hope it plays well, and I hope I can get into it, because, as I said, I wasn't able to get into the Wolfenstein games. I have tried them because they've been in Game Pass and stuff, but yeah, and I don't have any issues, with the voice work or anything, and so on and so forth, because once you're playing it, as long as it's written well, then I can make allowances, right? I mean, no game is perfect. So, making allowances, and as long as it's fun and it's paced well, written well, I think those are the things we ultimately look for. But it's difficult not to make comparisons with the top end adventure games, and stuff like Spider-Man and all this other stuff out there, and Uncharted and stuff, because they're just the sort of, they're seared into sort of the gaming community's minds, right? And that's the immediate go-to. But yeah,
I mean, that's how kind of how Tomb Raider came around, wasn't it? Because they wanted to try and do an Indiana Jones, but I think if I remember correctly, they couldn't get the license for it, so they created their own own franchise out of it. So there is obviously appetite for this.
Good stuff always comes out of adversity, right? And so there's always a silver lining to the cloud if you've got the desire and the appetite and the focus and the determination to do it. So you can, sometimes you get licenses and you think, oh, I wish I'd never done that, and then sometimes you don't get a license and you wonder what could have been, but you don't realize if you're still committed, you can perhaps produce something completely new and fresh and successful. So I'm not saying it's always the case, but yeah.
I think a lot of people were a little bit disappointed, because I think they had it in their head it was going to be an Uncharted-like experience, and this is far different from that. And so, and in fairness, no one said it was going to be like Uncharted. It's just so, people have got it in their head. It was like, oh, this is going to be Uncharted 2.0 or whatever it is,
Well, I think removable the movies. I mean, thought creates the most problems for people, right, at the end of the day. But I think that when you watch the movies, right, and if you play Spider-Man, the movies, right, and if Spider-Man was like a first-person adventure game, you'd think, what the hell, But the thing is, it's that Indiana Jones, the movies, and you've all got your own opinions, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, that Harrison Ford is so front and center. He is the movie, regardless of what he's saying, what he's doing. Every scene has to have Harrison Ford, and you have to see him with his jacket on or off, or with his hat on, or with his whip or whatever. But he's just so front and center all of the time, and the last thing you expect is to have to manage him in first person, right? But I think that's the key issue there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it works within a first person.
Yeah, it's difficult to disconnect from that fantasy that we have, right? To be Indiana Jones, and to be Indiana Jones, you have to hold and play with him. Oh god, that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? In third person. Now, again, I'm not saying that the game will not, will sort of suffer from that, from being first person. I think I haven't played enough of Wolfenstein to comment, so maybe someone else can say something. But there seems to be a lot of cutscenes or story events consistently having a lot of dialogue and in the presentation. So hopefully there's a lot of that to make up, make up.
Yeah,
for
so
it.
I think you're right. I think there will be a lot of FMV sequences or storytelling sequences within the game to kind of ensure that you still feel the ethos of Harrison Ford or Indiana Jones running through your veins as you're playing a game. I really hope it's not one of those games where you play and you don't hear him speak throughout the whole of it, except for the cut sequences. That will be a bit jarring. In a way, I kind of hope that if you're going to do first person, I want to hear some of his quips as I'm kind of, fighting a Nazi, if you know what I'm saying. Maybe he'll do a one-line quip as he's punching a Nazi or something. That would be cool.
I've got a question for you, guys. Is that if this game was still multi-format and ZeniMax hadn't been acquired, it looks to me that this game could actually run on PS4. Would that be fair?
To be
Maybe not
honest,
4K 60, but
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't see why not. I mean, Doom Eternal can run.
Yeah.
Arguably looks better than this. Still.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
So I think that what the studio's done is a sensible thing. I know it's a bit of a weird question, but the reason why I asked that because I think the studio made the made a good decision is to work with the tech that they've got, with the technical limitations that they've got, and with the engine that they know really well to produce a well-crafted game. And I think that was probably a smart decision to make rather than trying to reconstruct complete new technology to run the game like how we perceive it to be.
Yeah.
Do you think then actually this is a test bed, a first test bed of the franchise to see how well it translates across, and then if it does do well, maybe the next one will be a full on next generation.
I don't,
because some franchises can if it doesn't do well, that's it. It's the franchise is killed. So
I think that I think when they make games, they obviously plan for the initial game and then have tons and tons of ideas, and then they say, well, perhaps if we do a sequel. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Depending on how it's received, how it performs, how many players it has on day one, how much it costs, and if it's something that keeps if the budget, for example, is $50 million, there's not a lot of money for Microsoft, right? And so they may say, well, Indiana Jones, it's really popular, why not? Let's make another one for 50 million. But I think if you're saying that they'll make this game and then the next one's got to be really up to whatever, then in 2027 or whatever, it's 2028 or 2029 when the next gen systems come in, that's a whole new level of budget, right? Almost a cross-gen title, and then that becomes a completely different conversation. But it's Microsoft, right? They've got really deep pockets. I mean, these sorts of scenes that we're seeing on the screen now are really, really good because you can just see the effort that's gone in to create so many individual assets, right? Because I was trying to look for duplicates. I mean, there are obviously some there, but they spent a lot of time there to make it look as if it's incredibly dense, with the unique assets. But you see environments, you see that, and then you see environments like this, which in some other scenes where there isn't as many. So, but it's as you guys said, it's perhaps not finished yet, or there's probably still some work to be done, or probably we're seeing old footage. I really have no idea. But yeah, I think as the tech goes forward, but again, I guess the question is, does it need to be graphically advanced in order to capture an audience? And that is a question for everybody, right? Because as far as I'm hearing,
not always. No, the most yeah, some of the most what I'd say classic. Some of them you're still getting games that are like 16-bit that can capture a huge audience. So graphics is superfluous in my idea. I think as long as it's fun, that will be the one that captures the most
Agreed.
people.
Yep, agreed.
Stubz.
I'll just type into Indy. Indy loves the Suicide Squad trailer.
He did. I think he's bought the collection.
He's got a deep passion for it.
Yeah, didn't someone say he bought like the old collector's edition or something?
Oh, apparently, yeah. The rare one. In the game, that's a joke. He hasn't got a deep passion for it at all. Yes,
he's got an unnerving deep passion for it.
Yeah,
my
There's been some good
My other question was
opinions.
going to be: is this? I know that Hellblade's only available to buy digitally, but
We can go
Oh,
on
I
to
don't
that.
know.
Well done, VJ. We can go on
Oh,
to Hellblade. I'll
so
just get the trailer.
I don't know
up.
if everyone's finished on Indie, but I'm just wondering if this is going to get a physical release, because if this
will.
came as a limited edition with a statue, or with a Hot Toys figure or whatever, or a Sideshow figure or whatever.
Do you know what? That's a very good question. If the Indiana Jones collection edition came with an Indiana Jones statue, or maybe, I don't know, a whip. Not saying you would, but I'm just saying, something like that. A lot of people would buy it. A
Yep.
lot of people would buy
Massive
it.
commercial opportunity there.
Oh god, yeah. But then again, is it part of the franchise? Is it like the rights of toys and stuff? Have they may have the rights for Harrison's likeness, but do they have the rights for toys?
I think that I think that even if I think they could get, I forgot what the word is now.
You're thinking of
special dispensation to make a one-off statue for the game.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, basically, it doesn't give them the entire franchise license. It gives them like Luke will be able to tell them, but it kind of gives like a rental for a certain period, isn't it?
But toy rights are split up into so many into so many categories: size, type, material. You'd be surprised, and most contracts for from license holders as big as Disney, and they never ever mention exclusivity in any of the contracts.
It's like Spider-Man with Sony. Sony did the Spider-Man films and the games, yet all the merchandising rights and profits goes directly back to Disney because Disney own the rights. Because I believe
didn't Spider-Man come with a statue? Spider-Man 2.
I believe, Luke, is that right?
Yeah.
Years ago, when Sony was struggling, they sold the Spider-Man rights back to Marvel, didn't they?
Should have sold them to you.
Maybe, yeah. Can't remember.
Something like that. But,
yeah. Well, I don't think the merchandise rights ever went to Sony. To be honest, I think it was purely for
fair enough.
Films and
so
related rights.
Apparently, Spider-Man merchandise every year, regardless of a film, makes something like $2 billion in merchandise anyway. Something like that. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
We buy it.
Responsible for only about half of that.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, Indiana Jones was a good conversation. Now, what did everyone think to Hellblade 2?
Mr. Stubbs, just as before somebody, one of our guests speak, I'll be back in about 5-10 minutes if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's go for a
no problem. Masuku, did you play a Hellblade 1?
No, I didn't play the first one, but
I played a bit of it.
Yeah. I think I have seen. I think I have been watching at least two guys from the community play it on Twitch. So I know something about the game, but so what was interesting for me in this game that I would like Luke also to chime in, because they were talking about this binaural audio, and I think Luke knows this technology. And what was very interesting that they were saying that they are planning to make the music even binaural audio.
Yeah, spatial. I can't really mention it, but you're right. Yeah. So the first one was basically, if I remember correctly, voice work only, and this was to try and highlight the sounds of voices in her head, and how it felt like to have voices in your head, telling you things, bringing you down. Yeah, it was very much a case of it was trying to give you a deep understanding of that. And I tell you what, if you put headsets on and you played the first one, they did a superb job. It really did feel unnerving.
I've played it. It is freaky with all them voices.
It is. And so they're now using that same technology, but they're now going to try and do it with music and the environment as well. So it's kind of ramping up what was already a very good technology to a higher level. So if it kind of unnerved you, the first one did, I suspect this is probably just going to ramp that up and heighten the atmosphere and heighten everything to a new level. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it just on that alone, because when I played it, it really gave you a fantastic understanding of what people with that condition go through. And if you looked at the developers when they actually went through this, they actually brought in a number of people with that condition and basically asked them to sit through it and asked them to give their opinions of how this felt to get the most authentic experience, so that it was basically would highlight their condition to everyone else in the world. And a lot of the people, at least from the developer diaries, what they were saying was a lot of the people they basically brought in gave them really good information. They actually said it was almost as close as possible as what they experienced themselves. So yeah, if you ever want to kind of understand that sort of aspect, the first one is a very good one to try and get your teeth into it, if that should say.
Yeah, that's true. I was curious because I know Luke is headphone geek like me. So have you ever heard about binaural music? Because I haven't.
Yeah, no, I've not. I think I think it exists, but I think it's quite difficult to do, because the idea of having something that's binaural, which is a really old binaural recordings are really old. We've had them for a long time. Back in the days, you didn't get much recorded in that way because they work best when you have headphones. They don't work as well on things like standard front-facing stereo speakers or even surround sound, although they are a lot better. But the idea is just that you have two microphones and you record sounds around those microphones, and then you translate it onto a normal stereo headset. But the effect of recording in that way is essentially mimicking how our own ears pick up sounds. So because we have effectively a complete 360 rotation of sound. So the first game did that exceptionally well with the voices, where you could, they recorded in a way you could actually go and watch some of the recordings of the voices for the.
Well, they actually showed it in the trailer of the two people surrounding that headset, and that was it, wasn't it?
There's a dual microphone setup, and the actors are simply walking around it and chiming in to different locations as it's recording. So it's really impressive, and if you've played the first game, it's very immersive. Music, I think would be really difficult because in terms of placement of instruments, they're relatively static.
So you get required to circle around a headset.
I don't think they would work in the same way. It only really works when you have sound that moves around you to replicate how your own ears would pick up that sound. So, but I'm pretty sure there is binaural music somewhere out there. I just don't know if it's very good. So I mean, this is really impressive, and I think it will be, that the way that they're doing binaural audio for this one, when they're mixing in some music as well, and also probably they'll have a normal kind of stereo pass for the sound or for the environment sounds, or they may try and replicate some of it as well. Combined with, a very, very visually impressive game, I think it will be very immersive.
One thing I just thought about is I made the joke, obviously, that getting an orchestra to circle around the headset. I suppose you could counter that and actually have the headset circle around an orchestra to effectively provide something similar.
I don't know if it would pick up sound in the same way, because we're trying to.
Yeah, I suppose distance, wouldn't it? You'd have to keep that distance. Yeah.
You're trying to replicate how sound would be perceived by a human, and in that scenario, it would be the human walking around an orchestra rather than the opposite. So I don't think it would quite work because of the way that sound travels. You need to have a static, limiter.
Would it be very similar to like the old Roman theatres, where you could hear them talking from the very base? It's up to about 6 or 7 seats, or 20 seats higher. Would they have something similar in terms of that sort of?
I wouldn't think
technology?
so. I mean, you could do that because those were amphitheaters. So the way in which they were constructed meant that they could amplify sound and try to get that to travel quickly across even great distances. Because there's in an amphitheater, there's not much sound leakage.
No.
So I don't know how you could replicate that in a game. I think it'd be difficult anyway.
I suppose it's going to be interesting, whatever it is, how if it works, isn't it? It's going to be it's a new.
Yeah.
As you said, it's not a new technology, but it is, isn't it? Because it's barely ever utilised.
Yeah, it kind of comes around every 10 years. Someone remembers, we can do binaural audio for this,
and then they remember why they can't do it.
yeah. So I think it made total sense for Ninja Theory to do it in the first game, and also obviously for this one because of the nature of.
Yeah.
You're trying to put someone in the shoes of someone suffering from psychosis. People who suffer from psychosis have audio and visual delusions, and to replicate that, binaural audio, at least on the audio side, is very good at doing that. It can be very effective. So I think Ninja Theory will at least push the technology pretty far here in terms of how it sounds.
I mean, they generally seem to be pushing the technology everywhere, visually, mocap wise, sound wise. It is literally, and it's strangely enough, for me at least, a studio that kind of came out of nowhere is kind of becoming a leading force in the technology side of things.
All they had to do was sacrifice, 1/3 of the screen to push the visuals.
Well, that's it. It'd be interesting to see if maybe those visuals now will be able to do the full screen, but you don't know, post-book situation.
Yeah, I think on console that's what you'll be. Well, to be honest, I mean, I'm.
But
not
Luke
too confident,
Luke didn't your partner has this ultra wide screen that you can utilize for this game?
Yeah, I'll be sequestering that on the the table.
So you're not going to have any worries because the letterbox effects will just basically sit nicely regardless of where it is.
They'll blend well to that screen, but I'll be a bit. I'm not expecting it, but I would like the PC version to have an option to turn that off. But I suspect they will not allow you to do that.
I suspect it's probably because it would probably. I think we mentioned this before. Is if they the reason why the letterbox effect is there is to try and cut down on the data that's probably being produced,
which is fine. I mean, I think it's I would assume it's somewhat of a creative choice. They want to make it cinematic, immersive. I think that's probably one reason. I think the other reason is they really wanted to push visuals.
Yeah.
And by sacrificing the amount of pixels that are used on the screen, you can on console, you can really push visuals further. But that doesn't apply or shouldn't apply to PC because you can have an infinitely powerful rig compared to a console.
This is true. Yeah, it's you've got much more options to kind of suit that. And it's the irony is though, this isn't a new technology in terms of letterbox games where they sacrificed graphical space to get things to work. They've done it since the Mega Drives or Genesis era. So it's not as if it's like a new thing, but I get you. Yeah, but then again, you don't know if this is going to be something that as time progresses and as systems get more powerful, things like this will change.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd like to say, I think it's not just a tech decision. I think it's a creative one as well. Much in the same way that the Order did exactly the same. It allowed them to push tech significantly, so that looked like a huge generational leap because they just had less resolution to render. But it was also a choice to make the game more cinematic. I mean, you look at the fundamental quality of the assets in the Order, and they wouldn't look at that out of place today. So, and this is the same. I suspect, by the time next gen comes around, you'll look back on this game and say, well, this could probably stand up pretty closely to whatever they're putting out then. But yeah, I think it would just be a shame if you can't disable that on PC, because I don't really want to play with, I'm not watching a film. I'm playing a video game. So I'd like them not to be there on PC, but maybe there'll be a mod. Someone will mod it.
Oh, there will be. Yes, there'll be mods. Most likely.
Everyone's gone quiet.
Yeah, where are we going from here then?
Suicide Squad. Do it for Indy.
He's getting twitchy. He's getting twitchy if he doesn't mention Suicide Squad at least once or twice every 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, I felt sorry for him because last week I literally played it for half the show, and I turned it off, and he was like, "Yeah," and I put Sonic on. I didn't actually pick many trailers last week. Sometimes the way I download trailers is the 4K to video app, and sometimes on the YouTube channels, that's how you copy and paste it in. And a lot of the time, Xbox and certain platforms, they put it on YouTube, but they put it so you can't download it. So I can get I'll get what I can. It's not always possible to get everything. It's not.
You see, you wouldn't have this issue if you bought physical. See what I did there? That was a nice segue into the next subject, eh? Yeah. Okay, you don't have to go me. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, that was actually good. I've not actually got that one up. Hang on. Give me a second. VJ put that in the VJ.
Because also, is this not physical? Is it? Hellblade isn't physical. It's only digital only, is it?
Yeah, I believe so. Apparently, VJ brought this to my attention, but Walmart. So that was the 19th. So it's probably this week. They're reportedly in America starting to remove physical discs from the shelves. Games from the shelves. So and that goes along with what we were talking about with the previous week with Game in the UK removing physical trade-ins, which is basically game business over. Because you don't make a lot of money out of selling brand new games. The margins are tiny, if any at all. So this looks like the end of Game, but it won't be the end of Walmart. That's a bigger store. But Game's already like a toy shop. But VJ just he dropped it in the DMs that it's apparently happening this week. So whether it is or not, it's another matter. But a lot of shops in the UK don't sell Xbox games physical. A lot of
I would argue they do. Not games.
They do, but some shops have got the arse with Game Pass, and some of the shops actually a lot of the like smaller independent shops. A lot of them removed all their Xbox games, saying, "What's the point? Everyone's got Game Pass now. Why should we sell discs?"
I think that was when Game Pass was kind of first announced. I think generally now, I think you would normally get it from Argos, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Sex. I'm trying to think of other ones. But it is that's what CEX Sex. It is, isn't it? But I'm just trying to think of all of the other ones that are in the UK that sell. Currys still slightly sell.
Don't they?
Games.
PC World. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think some, or at least the one that's closest to me, they do. It's not much. I've given to you. It's much more reduced, but it is. They do still sell. I think then the only other place that I know of that does actually sell physical games in large quantities is Amazon. Until probably Amazon kind of kills its physical situation, we should be okay. But it is slightly worrying to see.
No, you're right, Indy. I do not like him saying it that way.
What would you prefer to say it then?
Well, when I say it, I'm going to CEX.
But there is no space in between there, is there? There is no dot or hyphen or something like that. Even the adverts say it's not CEX.
CEX. That's what I say. CEX.
Actually, I knew the founder of CEX. He was a friend of mine. He passed away, unfortunately. But Bobby, we used to call him. But just so we're clear, he'd always refer to it as CEX.
Well,
yes,
but
the innuendo, the Indian innuendo would always be there as well, though. So I think you're both right.
Well, I just say, if Brian Blessed can say sex on adverts, I don't see why can't. I mean, who's going to argue with Brian Blessed, right? Indy, are you going to? Sorry, no, Indy, Stubz, you going to argue with him?
You can attempt to argue with Brian Blessed, but you're probably not going to get very far.
Exactly. I don't know. But again, it is. I think it's one of those things. It is slightly worrying that physicals are reducing. I don't know. It's one of the things that it's a passing thing, isn't it? You know, everything passes with time. You know, we've seen it with every media. You know, from tape to disc to Blu-ray to VHS. It is everything passes, has its time, and has its space. And but for me, I still do enjoy physical discs, and the potential benefits it has with it. I don't know. What about you, Luke? Do you prefer physicals, or are you fully 100%?
I am pretty much mostly digital. Well, I'd say 95% digital now. I do still occasionally buy physical, but it's only it tends to only be Nintendo, and it tends to only be collector's editions. Apart from that, I can't remember the last time I bought a physical disc.
Does this worry you in the slightest? If you're like,
no, it doesn't worry me. As in
the ability to kind of remove ownership at any point.
No, because I know what I've bought into. So I've gone into it with my eyes open.
Yep.
I know that there will probably come a day where I won't have access to this stuff, but you know, if that's when I'm 89 and dribbling, then I won't really give a fuck at that point anyway. So and I don't intend to pass on my game collection to anyone because I don't know, it would be a bit of a difficult thing to move on to people at that point because you would be inheriting a bunch of archaic games. But yeah, no, so I mean, I think physical should still be there as an option. So I don't want people, you know, that to be taken away from people. But in terms of does it personally impact me? No. Do I personally, you know, am I concerned about it? Well, no, because again, it's not. I've already gone to the digital future pretty much. So, but yeah, I mean, it is a shame for people who do collect those physical editions. But even then, it's difficult now because most games, you know, require some form of activation or download, you know, day one patch, something to actually get that physical copy going. Sometimes it's not even on the disc; it's just a token, effectively. Yeah. So it's really, you know, we've kind of gone away from the old days of pure physical anyway, where you could just bung it in and it would work. It doesn't really work like that anymore. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why the retro community is still probably expanding even today, and still it's not dying in any shape or form because there is still a need for old games. You know, it's one of the reasons why retro games, you know, retro consoles, retro systems are coveted and are exorbitant prices because even now they're becoming rarer and rarer, isn't it, sort of thing. So I think for me, I think it will still be there. I think you'll probably still want to. There'll be a group of people wanting to play physical games from a physical console, rather than a cloud-based system. But so I think that is there. It's just, I suppose it's a shame, as you said, it's moving there. I think it's because it's within our lifespan. I assumed in my head that digital would be something I wouldn't see too further, and now, of course, it is coming there a lot quicker than anything else. As with all technology, it just speeds up and rapidly encroaches, regardless of what everyone thinks. Which is one of the reasons why I think hardware-based systems is going to become obsolete. It's going to become, as unwillingly it is, it will become mobile orientated gaming. It will become over the cloud systems or subscription services. I think that's going to be the future. And this is just that probably that very first step leading us towards that. That's just my thoughts anyway. Masuku, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, like, what do you think? How is physical games going to be going forward? Is it going to be moving to the limited games type of system that they are all these kind of special editions with art book, CD, the soundtrack, and then some maybe figurine with it? So do you think that's going to be the future for physical?
I think that's the best solution it's going to happen, because if it doesn't, it will be completely dead. It'll die out. It'll be gone. That is the best solution that physical has at this current stage. As I don't think, in terms of how we're progressing, in terms of how things are moving forward, just following like the linear path of how we're progressing, I don't think hardware. I think hardware is going to be obsolete soon. I think it will become software, cloud-based systems.
Are we talking
how soon?
5 years, 10 years?
From the technologies that I'm utilizing, I didn't expect AR to be encroaching this early. And that has probably shocked me the most. I'm gauging if in how I've seen AR quickly creep upon me, the end result of being a software-based systems, only wireless-based systems. My gut feeling is probably 10 to 15 years.
But AR is still physical, isn't it?
Currently,
you need
it
hardware.
is. You need a unit to utilize it, but that's changing as well now in terms of they're doing now. I don't know if anyone's seen. They're using what's it called, contactless lenses now for your eyes to actually engage with those. So that there is a change in that already. I know currently at the moment it's utilizing Apple's goggles, and there are X-Reels glasses currently.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Nice one. But yeah, I think it's at this stage there is stage of contact lens that are also doing something similar. So it's rapidly moving quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised in probably 10 to 15 years. If we keep going the way we're going, and this is a big if in terms of if Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all that is going to get better and better and better and better, or infrastructure is going to get better in terms of data. If it keeps going the way it's going, I suspect 10 to 15 years. And that's my just personal guess based on the systems I'm seeing come through at the moment. But that, it is. I don't know. It is becoming more software based than hardware based at the moment. I mean, what do you think? What do you guys think? Do you think there's a slight start of a stagnation now, when it comes to hardware jumps. I mean, it does to me seem that way. I mean, I could
Not
be
if you're on
completely wrong.
PC, baby.
Say that again, Luke.
Not if you're on PC, baby.
Well, yeah,
No
that's what I
stagnation.
thought his answer. That's what I thought his answer. Would be.
No. I mean, I don't. I mean, more generally, no. I don't think there is hardware stagnation. I just think it's you know, if you're running up against some basic thermodynamic laws, which mean that the smaller things get, the hotter they become, and the more power you have to run through them, and that's really hard to cool. And then you get into a cycle of trying to incrementally increase the power of, you know, consoles or whatever other piece of hardware in the gaming space in smaller margins. That doesn't mean that can't be overcome. It just means that the amount of resource and time it takes to put into those things is longer than it traditionally has been. But there are still pretty big leaps we can make and places we can go once, you know, manufacturing lines
Computer,
come up with
activate the
solutions
threat
for that stuff, which they will. But I mean, on the PC side, you still get huge hardware jumps from gen to gen, especially from, you know, multiple gen to multiple gen. Excuse me. So I think there'll always be a place for powerful hardware. And the problem is as well, I suppose, with cloud is that we always say, well, you know, as the infrastructure improves, the prevalence of cloud technology will become even greater. What people fail to look at is that if you look at the infrastructure of the last 20 years, we've barely improved at all in 20 years. So it's incumbent upon governments in particular to put in place massive improvements to infrastructure, and the type of infrastructure improvement you need to make cloud gaming effectively as close to native as possible is just not feasible within a pretty significant amount of time, at least in the countries we're talking about, so the US, UK,
I mean, you
etc.
say in 20 years, what was we doing 20 years ago in terms of technology versus what we're doing now in terms of gaming? That was a pretty big leap, I would say. Especially when it came to, you know, also just like phones, for instance, big leap in technology, really. That's
in terms of
in
terms of hardware, yeah, but we're talking about effectively internet infrastructure at this point, aren't we?
What kind of internet would you say that we would need?
I think you would probably need wall-to-wall, extremely solid 5G across the country.
The speed.
Yeah. So speed, well, 5G operates up to what? I mean, really high levels, but probably about a gig, I think.
That's currently available, but not in the whole country.
Yeah, no, it is currently available. Yeah.
But around the world, basically. Whole world.
Well, at least in developed countries that use cloud gaming a lot.
Yeah.
But
you are right. It's like in the UK, it really wouldn't have pushed through if you left it down to BT. It really wouldn't have come through. They're only doing stuff for all these networks because the government's offering all these money pots for them to install it all around the country. It's like my county. I believe the gigabit internet that was installed was part of a government grant because we're the smallest county in the country. We got a load of funding for the gigabit internet.
Yeah.
You don't have to have gigabit. You can have like 200 megabyte if you want. You don't have to have the top one. Do you know what I mean? But it's there. But you are right. It takes government to do it. And a lot of countries, governments ain't willing to help. They're not. I don't believe America would help their internet. I don't believe the American government would help. I might be wrong, but
it always depends. It's always about industry and business coming together. And if there's a profit in it, they'll come together. But if the profit's not there in the foreseeable future, then they won't lift a finger. When it is profitable or projected to be profitable, trust me, they'll put it in place. But I just don't know when that will be. And for me, if I've got the choice between, and I'm really putting it sort of really simply here from my perspective, I'm not like an captain of industry or anything, but that's just basic economics. But from my perspective, and I'm probably a bit older than some of you guys, but Obviously not you, Lord Stubs, because you're like 480. But for me, it's a case of, what Removable was saying, a digital future. PC's been digital for a hell of a long while. So PC gamers are probably the biggest gaming community out there. Would that be fair to say, even with all consoles combined, console owners combined? So for me, it's and they all love their hardware. And for me, if I'm going to game, this is to Removable's point, if there is a PS6 or an Xbox 2 or a 3 or a PS7, and I've got a choice, and at that time in the future, I can only buy my physical games from platform holders or publishers direct because retailers are no longer stocking, and the option is there. Great. And if if you want to buy a physical, you can only buy it from the Xbox, online store, and they'll mail it to you, and like Sony does already, if you want to do that, or buy the digital code or whatever, then great. As long as the option's there, as Luke mentioned, for the next 10, 15, 20 years, then I'm good, because bloody hell, I don't even know if in 20 years I'll still be able to hold a controller, so I'm trying to get through as many games as possible. And I'll tell you what, Prince of Persia is really testing my reflexes at the moment.
With accessibility devices, you won't have to.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I'm being stubborn there, Removable, but I really appreciate some of the things that Prince of Persia does. In terms of accessibility, not that I need them, not that I use them, the option is there, but so far I veer away from using them, not in terms of visual aids and stuff like that, or sound, or the for people that are struggle with playing games. But for me, I try to play on normal or just above normal, just to keep my mind and my reflexes and my memory in check. I know it sounds really strange, but I find that playing video games like Prince of Persia or Hollow Knight or certain other games, it really keeps me sort of mentally and reflex, and the sort of relationship between hand and eye coordination. It keeps it in check. It does it really, really well. So I appreciate the options. I'm just I have no idea how long before I'll actually start having to use the accessibility features, and I really appreciate some of the things that Prince of Persia does, because it does actually introduce quite a few different elements to gaming as a whole, and I think it's pretty fantastic. I'm not talking about the game here, reviewing it in terms of what the game is. I'm just saying in terms of the additional options that it's integrating into games, such as
I think, to be honest with you, people don't realise that until you get older, those accessibility options is going to be needed as you get older, because your body starts to deteriorate, and so therefore you're going to need better subtitle options, better sound options, better visual options, because your body starts to disintegrate as you get older. And if you want to enjoy the gaming, those options better be in there. And so I think it's going to be one of those things. I think there's going to be a leap the moment we start seeing probably the first time generation gamers. That's probably hitting about now. Get real old and start shouting about what they need.
I was going to say removal and elongated button presses, or elongated periods for parrying,
or even just the fact that you really can press a button, without don't even have to press a button. You can get one of these auto button jobs sort of thing.
5-minute parry window for Prince of Persia. That's what we need.
Hey, what was that, Luke?
There's a 5-minute parry window for Prince of Persia. That's what we need.
Is that so you can make a cup of tea in between? No.
Yeah. So you can see the attack coming. You can go away.
Don't do tea, do you?
Luke's after auto parry, aren't you, mate? You just flick it on, it auto parry.
Yeah, just get an auto parry in there. Why not?
This is you back to your AI again, Removable. Why not just stick the whole game in self-play mode?
Yeah, we'll just watch it at that
Look
point.
What I just did.
Do you know what? There are people.
I was holding my controller. Look what I managed to do.
It's amazing. I've seen people play games with a dance mat. I've seen people play games with using their eyeballs and eye trackers. So to be honest with me, it's amazing what people can do and what we can play games with. And if there's more options out there, I'm happier for it.
No, I think you're right. I think that, I know you talk a lot, but you did make a good point, not last week, maybe the week before, where you were saying our generation, all of us on this panel, Masuko, etc., and Indie Gamer in the chat, unless there's several indie gamers, because there's so many text messages from this. But the fact that our generation, spends a considerable amount of money on gaming. I know probably Luke spends more than the gross national average. But the point being, though, is that there will come a time when we don't function as well as we do now in 10 years or 20 years time. So knowing that accessibility for developers is sort of high on the agenda, not for every game, but for the mainstream games at least, and that tools are in place to actually encourage that from Unreal, etc. I think is really, really good. And it's how can I put it, Removal? It's comforting to know, if I can put it like that.
Yeah, it means that
you won't be marginalized.
We're not short-sighting ourselves
in certain games that you've grown fond of, or franchises, etc. And
yeah,
just a quick note. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Removal.
No. I was basically agreeing with what your points.
As usual. And then you message me and say I talk a lot of rubbish. But anyway, just a complete and utter side note here, and I know I have to do this because I do it for indie every show. Is just to mention Silksong, playing Prince of Persia, and I'm coming towards the end of it, and I didn't even know that there was an option to have a guided assistance. I was roaming around the game idly, not knowing what to do for about 20 hours until I watched something, and I said, "How the hell are all these icons on this guy's map?" And then I realized everyone's playing it with a mode where the game guides you. Yeah, and I thought, okay, this is a lot easier. I know where I'm going now. I know what the objectives are. But I'd open up most of the map as you do. But I can appreciate why. I can appreciate the technical and the the design of the game. It's different to Hollow Knight, but it's obviously it's got lots of it's a Metroidvania at the end of the day. But I can appreciate after playing Hollow Knight and Celeste and now Prince of Persia, given the sheer size of it, why something like Silksong is taking as long as it is, especially if it's going to be almost double the size of Hollow Knight, because balancing such a game must require such finesse, should I say, to make it really, really good. Which obviously the Metroid and Hollow. I haven't played as many as you guys, but these sorts of games. But yeah, I can appreciate why Silksong is not out yet, but hopefully will be soon.
It's good that we in the wait for that you get a game like Prince of Persia actually, which is I haven't played too much of it yet, but it's a superb Metroidvania.
It does a lot of things really fantastically well, but I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to sort of influence you in any shape, way, or form. Maybe we'll chat about it another time.
But just buy it.
It introduces some really, really good things into. I don't know if this is you've already played it, Luke, right? Well, you're playing it, so you must have you've got the option. Basically, if you find yourself somewhere you can't access it, you can hit the top of the D button or the bottom. I think it's the top. No, the bottom, and you can take a quick screenshot. And on the map, you can go on the map and then see the eyeball. You can scroll over it, and it will pop up a little screenshot which you can enlarge so you can recall where it was.
That's like photo mode they had, isn't it? It's where you photograph something, all photograph now.
Yeah. So, but the way I was playing Hollow Knight, I'd actually have to take a screenshot on my Xbox controller. I used to hate having to try to find my captures, so I just used to take snapshots on my phone. But being able to do that in game, I think you can call that an accessibility feature for me because my memory is terrible these days. So that was one of many things that I really appreciated. That
ease of life. What's it called?
It's a quality of life feature.
That's it. Quality of life feature.
But some really hardcore fans would say that's cheating. Oh, well, what are you doing? You can't be doing. You got to memorize it. You got to sear it, all that sort of rubbish. So, but I appreciate
you don't have to utilize it, isn't it? That's again, you don't have to use it. It's an option for you to.
Yeah, agree. Absolutely, yeah. Just little things like that, and some of the abilities that you also. I haven't played enough games to know whether these are original, but it's my first time coming across some of those. That's why I asked Indy in the chat if he played the Prince of Persia, because I'd really want to hear like some sort of an expert on Metroidvania games talking about it. But I just found some of the design elements for the combat and the level designs really unique and really interesting.
Yeah,
and it's made me all that more excited for Silksong. So anyway, sorry about that, Mr. Stubbs.
No, I'm actually, to be honest, I'm a bit lost where we are because I've been had to go away. I don't know
That's
where we
exactly
are
how I
on this
feel.
show.
That's exactly how you feel when you played a Metroidvania game.
He knows where he is. He's at the Moss Charger.
Yes, never got past it.
We did digital. We did
Physical. Which one
Hellblade,
left?
and we did Indiana Jones. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I think we haven't talked yet. Is Avowed.
Hang on. I've got that. There we go. I've got that on screen now. What did everyone think of Avowed then, Masuku? What did you reckon to it?
I think it was the kind of interesting show that they put out for us. I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like very mundane way of showing the game. Like at the same time, it's like good that they are showing more of the real gameplay, and at the same time, it looks like is this going to be like not that special game as I was hoping for. But I have to say I
Skyrim
was
2.0.
Yes.
yeah. I was laughing this thing with those gecko enemies in the trailer. It was like
Oh.
this takes me back into Fallout New Vegas. If people have played that, they will know exactly what they are referencing in this demo with those.
Yeah, I thought it would be a lot more medieval looking from the initial trailer.
Well, that's what. Yeah, it sounded like a dungeon that he was going into this dungeon area.
Yeah, and it kind of look. I'm a fan of Obsidian. I really like them. They're not that far from me. Just a short car journey away. I really enjoyed Outer Worlds. I really enjoyed the writing and the premise, and I really like watching the documentary about what they wanted to create versus what they could create given the time, budget, and the tech that they had. I think I'm with Masuko. It's not quite what I expected, but the thing is, it's in Game Pass, and it's definitely going to be worth giving a go. And hopefully, it's got the elements. Most of the elements that I've enjoyed in Obsidian games in this game, even though the setting's a bit weird. I thought it was going to be medieval when I saw it, and I blinked away for a minute and I thought it was God of War for a minute and first person, but because just the way the color palette and some of the rendering, but and then obviously you realize it's Obsidian's Avowed, and the combat system they've described it, but it's really going to be about hands-on and what the game's really. When is it out? At the end of the year?
Yeah, like
yeah, fall 2024.
Yeah.
So busy fall already, right? This Indiana Jones and who knows what else.
This I think will pull in the Elder Scrolls fans. I don't think this is going to pull everyone in. A lot of people may have a go because it's in Game Pass, but
yeah, it was. I think VJ nailed it. It looks like quite a departure from the previous game. Like let's say this Outer Worlds. It also had a little bit like this more bright look to it, but the humor, it was so dark. It went to places so dark, so that there was always this balance, like that they have had from the the Fallout games. That it's always like this kind of like a mix of darkness and light, but at least I didn't get that idea from this trailer. At least it just felt so ordinary,
empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because as people when they first showed the CG teaser for this
Looks
off.
very different to this.
Yeah, it was quite different, and that's what I was expecting. Also, because I played Pillars of Eternity, which this Eora is from Pillars of Eternity, and if you played those games, they do have a lot of color to them in certain places, but they're quite dark fantasy worlds, and they're particularly grim in terms of storytelling. It's actually really great. So when they did the original CG trailer, I thought, oh great, this is going to be dark fantasy RPG. It's in the Pillars universe. They've confirmed that. And then the first trailer, not this one, but the first trailer just looks completely wild by comparison to what they showed off originally, and they've sort of doubled down on it to some extent with this gameplay reveal. So I think it looks really nice, and I do actually like the art style, but I would have preferred them kind of sticking to a bit more of the dark fantasy stuff that they were doing. Because it does feel like it sort of inherits some of the color palette from Outer Worlds, and I'm not sure tonally if it quite matches. But I mean, it's Obsidian, so I'm sure it'll be minimum good.
It'll be a
if not
solid.
very good.
It'll be a solid game. But will it be exactly what you want, or will it just be another good game that fills in? Fills in a hole.
Sounds like
Yeah.
It sounds like to me, look, it's almost it's as you were saying, it's not bringing along the dark aspect of previous games to it. It's almost lightened it up to the point where it's almost like a subterranean versus terranean world. They've gone above ground effectively too much bright, too much light, where you almost kind of wanted the ditty, as you said, the dark, gritty, almost nastiness of the previous games to kind of shine through, where this seems kind of happy-go-lucky, whether or not that's the aim they're going for. But I suppose, is there? I mean, of the games better than I do. Is there anywhere in that franchise that there is, like a zone where this is a much more light-hearted place? Is it one of these things that they're just showing off this light-hearted zone, and maybe actually the majority of the game is more of a dark, gritty?
No, it's pretty dark. I mean, there are more vibrant environments in Pillars, which this is going for. But they're just not. This seems all vibrancy at the moment. It doesn't seem to be much beyond that. So I mean, maybe they'll. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because they haven't shown off every area in the game.
No.
But I think I don't know. I mean, the Pillars games, they were, I'd say, in terms of art style, visual coherence, they were probably closer to something like Diablo 2 in terms of grittiness and darkness, or even Diablo 4 actually. So these are pretty wacky. Like some of these environments are pretty wacky by comparison.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
But but I mean, I'm sure it looks good. I wasn't too convinced by the combat in the footage. I think it looked a
little bit sluggish.
Actually, I think that's what I was going to say. I think when you're in the cut and thrust or in the midst of combat, the visuals kind of go away, and it really hangs on its combat system, which I mentioned. It's that I just don't know how it works. I know they've made it sound really good, but hopefully it plays better than they're trying to make it sound, or if it's worse than what they're trying to make it sound. That's where this game will sort of live or die.
Yeah.
Does
No, go ahead.
I heard Mr.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
like,
because this feels so different. Like, do you guys know, does Obsidian have like multiple teams? Like, is this some offshoot of the main team that is doing this game? Because it's so different from the usual. games that they put out.
I think this is their main team doing this. I think they have another small team at the minute doing Outer Worlds too.
Well done,
and-
though, Luke. I've been watching and listening to you, and so far you've not. You keep saying Outer. In a minute, he's going to say his favourite game,
Not
Outer
yet.
Wilds.
Not yet. It'd be better if it was. We should just have a show about that. So yeah, no, I think they have their second team working on Outer Worlds, but that's pre-production still, I think. And then obviously, I think they did have the small grounded team.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I think Josh Sawyer, who I think directed the, I think he did the first one, Pillars and Deadfire. I don't actually think he's directing on this, because he was doing Pentiment, which is an interesting
that's
choice.
very gritty and darkish sort of game. So, do you think it's actually the dark grittiness is kind of? I'm not going to be. I know it's kind of be a bit cheeky, but followed with him.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's hard to tell, really. Without knowing the workings of the studio, but yeah, I mean, look, they've just gone for a particular tone for this, and we're only seeing snippets of this, so we don't know how the main game is going to play out in terms of how dark does it get, that sort of stuff. How visceral some of the environments get. So we'll see that when it launches. But to me, the way that it looks, and I think this is exactly what they're going for, is they just said, let's make the Outer Worlds, but make it a fantasy game. It has the same sort of vibrancy. They're going for the same.
What that trailer showed, was it? That was completely.
Yeah,
almost
they're going for the same zonal approach. So that it's not open world; it's hub areas, and that's fine. But I think rightly or wrongly, the original, the feeling I got from the original trailer was a dark fantasy open world RPG, and that's not what this game is.
No.
So we'll see. Like I said, Obsidian, great developer. I'm sure it will still be at least good, but it may not be the thing that everybody wanted.
Yeah, if I could say one thing, I'm just like thinking like because fantasy is such a popular genre in all sorts of in literature, in painting or illustrations and so on. So what I am getting is like normally if you have like a very basic, like the first thing that comes to your mind, fantasy, like if it's like this kind of like not necessarily like experienced, no matter what is the art that you are doing, normally they would go to this kind of vibrant theme. Would you guys agree on that?
It almost feels like it's a happy version of the Conan Barbarian.
Yeah.
Rather than a. I think Luke got it hit spot on there with like almost like a Diablo 4 dark grittiness to it, and I think that's the thing that's going to get it. If people were expecting a dark, disturbing, probably gritty, unnerving game, this does, at least from the trailer, doesn't look like that. This looks like a very much almost like a Outer Wilds mixed with the Outer Worlds, sort of vibrant sunshine game that has has a lot of things going.
No
You know what? It
vibrancy in
reminds
the
me of
Outer
Dragon
Worlds.
Age.
Dark.
Yeah, Outer Worlds is pretty dark. This reminds me of the what's the Dragon Age 3?
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, like even Inquisition. Actually, it's got quite a similar art style.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
It's
quite
much more.
bright fantasy
Yes,
environments.
yeah, that's what I'm trying. Yeah, and it's not what I expected. As you said, I thought of a much. I'm trying to think of a really good dark fantasy game that's come out for a while, but I can't think of one, to be honest with you, besides Diablo 4.
I think.
Sorry, Luke. Is Final Fantasy?
go
I haven't played it, but would you say Final Fantasy 16 fits that category?
I wouldn't say it's dark fantasy, but it's darker, isn't it? It's definitely it's getting there.
Yeah,
because it's
much darker.
Much darker. Yeah. So there are all the usual fantasy tropes, but actually it's in quite a barbaric kind of dingy world. So I'd say that I think in terms of like the last really proper dark fantasy game that I can think of off the top, apart from Pillars, it's probably something like Demon Souls in terms of how absolutely brutal that is. It's, it's got dragons, but it's got again fantasy tropes, but it's really dark, medieval type horrible, world. But yeah, Final Fantasy 16 is actually a good
filthy and decaying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Game of Thrones, that's kind of the darkest of dark. Getting there towards the proper dark fantasy. But,
and that's what that's what it felt like, didn't it? It felt like from the original trailer, it felt that darkness. In fact, actually, Game of Thrones is perfect because it almost had the back when in the trailer, didn't he? He fires the arrows into the armies.
Yeah.
And it goes through the crack, and you're right, that it perfectly had that sort of Game of Thrones-esque. It's straight from that trailer, almost ethos thrown to it, and I was like, yeah, that looks pretty good. Where this, as you said, it kind of looks just too. It feels like more like Dragon Age to me, more like an updated version of that.
Yeah, I think it'll be good, but it's just I still haven't quite gotten over the turn from the original teaser to what it is.
It was like a snow-like level, weren't there, with a bow and arrow? Was it correct?
Yeah, and there's like an undead army and stuff, and
see this picture of like the actual, the soldier with his skull and that works well with that. That almost like follows in with the original trailer, but everything in the latest trailer looks just so bright and pretty.
Yeah, they just need to like mash this up with Hellblade 2, and then you'll get like the perfect art style.
Everyone keeps saying them, let them do what they like. Let them do what they like. Don't know. Everyone keeps saying it.
As you said, regardless of what it is, I think it'll be probably a good, solid game experience. And it's a game that will probably get played a lot in Game Pass. And the fact it's in Game Pass is going to be it's a game, whether you like it or not, people will probably pick it up and play it.
I think Obsidian has a massive following. And I think that I really enjoy their writing, and I think we can look at the visuals, and it may not be exactly what we wanted, but there's so many other facets to the game. The gameplay, I think, is a massive unknown at the moment, and a really intriguing one. And secondly, I think the music, and then the writing, and it may start out like this and become darker as you progress. That's just me hoping that.
That would be a good idea.
But as you grow, as long as it doesn't
or
look like
some
this
sort of cataclysm happens that just gets the world darker and darker and darker.
I've never been disappointed with Obsidian. I don't think it's going to start now. And if Luke is right that the main production team is on this, and they've got one other game in pre-production, which makes complete and utter sense, because it kind of conveyed that in their documentary, in terms of how Outer Worlds was made, then I think the same way that there's a fan following for machine games, and I think that now that they've got first party support rather than publisher support, it can only benefit them, and they're not under the purview of Take-Two, who probably would have had Avowed shipped last quarter. So in that sense, I think and as you said, you both said, it's going to be in Game Pass, and 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 I think as long as it's got finished voiceovers, I think we're in for a treat.
Vijay, what do you think? Does this like what the feeling I get? It's like, Obsidian get a subsidiary in Japan to make a fantasy game for them.
As long as you're heading up the studio, I think we're in good hands.
Yeah, definitely agree.
I'll let Stubbs' new favourite game.
What's that? I've already changed
trailer.
it. I've already changed it back to the.
Get Suicide
to the
Squad in
Avowed.
there. Come on.
I'd rather play this Power World, try this Power World, than play Avowed. I will not be trying the tutorial of Avowed.
Why do you not want to try it? Can you sort of explain that?
It's like Elder Scrolls. I don't like them kind of games.
Obsidian have a, I don't know. Is it unfair? Look, you've played Obsidian games. Is it
like-
unfair to
won't play
pair
it.
Obsidian games with the other game that Stubbs has just mentioned?
I won't play it. That's all I'm saying.
It's a genre
Yeah.
that doesn't appeal to him, unfortunately.
I've tried Elder Scrolls. I've tried a lot of these games. I've tried Fallout, the one they made. I'm just.
Yeah, I think if you don't like those, you probably won't like this. Unless you would like the Outer Worlds, which I assume you haven't tried either.
But then again, I might try the tutorial. You never know.
Yeah.
What
Just play
is
the
Stubbs
Outer Wilds
playing?
instead.
What is Stubbs playing at the minute? Stubbs is
A lot of
playing.
tutorials.
Actually, I've been playing Fortnite. There's a Lego mode where you can build stuff.
Mm.
See?
It's quite good.
That's what I said. Power World would be perfect for you, matey.
I'm
You
gonna-
sort of
I'm-
Fortnite meets
gonna-
Pokemon.
Fair play though to Power World. I mean, I've installed it, but they've sold 3 million copies so far. They're doing well.
5 million now.
5 million, sorry. It's been updated
Yeah.
since I last looked at their
One,
Twitter
one
account.
thing I will say to you, Mr. Stubbs,
Yeah.
is that there was genres in the past that I wouldn't try, but
Yeah.
you just never know. You just never know what game at what point in time is going
Will
to
click.
just take you.
Yep.
So
That is
give
true.
it the benefit of the doubt.
I will.
Play the tutorial because you are the tutorial king, and
Yep.
then come on and say, you know what,
I'll try it.
this isn't for me, or say, you know what, this game's got potential. I think on my taste as because your taste buds change, right, as you
They
grow
do.
older.
They
Mhm.
do.
And so, metaphorically speaking, so you just never know, Mr. Stubbs, because it may just click with you, right? And then
That's
all of a
true.
sudden, a whole new avenue of video games opens up to you.
Like I
And,
did
What
with
happened to me?
Yakuza. Like
Mhm.
with Yakuza.
Mhm.
Yeah. And if we're all playing it, you just never know. I don't know if this game's co-op or not. I have no idea. But Masuko, were you playing it? Will you be playing it? Not Power.
I'm not indie game. I am not trying Cuphead tutorial. That game's going to be really hard. That is. I won't. I won't-
the
I
Outer
won't-
in
Wilds.
this instance, I think the
Why not?
tutorial you'll have no problem with. Well, unless, of course, you find jumping over a crate very hard. And let's not forget, there was at least one journalist who did find that almost impossible. So, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, what were you asking
Yeah.
Masuku before I interrupted? Sorry.
No. I didn't know if he's going to try Avowed or what his final sort of take on the game was.
Yeah. I might be saying all sorts of things that seems concerning, but I'm sure that it's going to be good, and I'm just baffled by some of the choices that they have made. But like Luke, I think it's going to be solid, and I hope that they will make a turn at some point in the game, that it will go to another direction.
Yeah.
But Vijay, so this visions of mana in the developer direct, what were you thinking about that one?
I haven't got a trailer for that.
I played the Super Nintendo Secret of Mana a couple of times, actually, a few times back in the day, obviously. and I really enjoyed that game. You know, even though it came out, you know, sort of the heyday of the Final Fantasy games. It's coming to Game Pass, so I'll definitely give it a go. But I don't know who it was. Was it back from the? I can't remember. We had a guest on last week who mentioned, was it the Uerdene Chronicles?
That was seeing it the week before.
Oh, that we see, yeah, see unit. So, you know, it looks interesting. I don't know. There's so many games. It hasn't captured me enough to, or it hasn't enamored me enough to sort of send it to the top of my list. At the moment, I'm playing a Prince of Persia and Resident Evil 2 for my sins, and I've completed quite a few games this year already. It's crazy, but and I was thinking about the Yakuza's Infinite Wealth, but if there really is a $15 paywall to access New Game Plus,
I heard about that. That's load of bollocks, that is. Can't do that. Saga, what are you doing?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's true or not. But anyway, the point being is, right now is that I just can't see past Rebirth at the moment. But the thing is, if this comes out in the summer, it's coming out in the summer, and I don't expect massive amounts of releases, so it could actually just pop up on the radar. But it comes out pretty close to Uerdene Chronicles as well. I know I'm pronouncing it incorrect, so please forgive me. But yeah, this and Visions of Mana, and I still haven't played Octopath Traveler 2. So,
I've got a trailer for you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, have you played the Nier Automata games?
I played a few hours of it.
Yeah, because when I was seeing the combat system that they had for these Visions of Mana, I was thinking like it's awfully similar looking, like the general flow. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think at least in that combat aspect, it looked very promising, at least to my eye.
Are you a big fan of Nier Automata?
Yeah. That's those are superb games.
He's even completed one of the endings.
Yeah.
Several.
It has several endings. Yes.
Yeah, well,
I kind of like to look at this game that Stubz is showing at the moment, and I know the original is in Game Pass right now, which I was going to have a go of once I'd finished Prince of Persia. But the sequel looks good as well. So I don't know what you think of these two games coming to Game Pass.
I think these will definitely have like a market for certain kind of, or let's say certain age group of gamers.
You?
Yeah. I think for me, this is definitely that PS1 generation games brings back memories.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of time. Do I have time then when it releases or not? Let's hope for the best.
It's coming to Game Pass, Visions of Mana, so there's really no excuse not to try it. And I don't think it'll be a time.
Of course.
Yeah. So it just wasn't high up on my. I don't know if it was anyone else's removals or Luke's, or obviously Stubz will play everything, but yeah, definitely if it's coming to Game Pass, I've just got no excuse but not to give it a go for a few hours and see if it clicks.
I better try
it.
I think it might be this kind of game that might surprise people, or that's at least what I'm hoping for. I think the previous game was very well received. What I remember seeing the reviews, that was at least out on Switch and on PlayStation, I think.
I think everyone should try it, at least. Just give it see what it's like.
Yeah. And that one, the previous one that they made, was much more simple in the combat like it looked like much more traditional combat system, and this is definitely more mobile one.
You see, there's lots of games like this and I know probably everybody's got a game. Like, I remember on the Switch, I really wanted to try a game, but there were just so many other games at the time. But Astral Chain, and it kind of just fell by the wayside. And the problem with games like Vision of Mana, not that there's an issue as in with the game, but there's always something that kind of sometimes impedes you, either personal life or other games or whatever. That games that you wanted to try or wanted to play, but they just fall by the wayside. But it's really just there's just so many games at the moment, and who knows what else is going to drop between now and launch. But if there isn't anything else, I'll definitely give it a go. But I'll probably still be playing Rebirth for about the third time.
yeah. So, yeah. Do you want to talk about Reboot Mod? Has there been any news about that? Because I haven't been keeping up what is happening with that one.
There's loads of trailers and stuff like that, and lots of interesting blogs and stuff like that. But I kind of get the feeling with the radio silence on the panel that I might be the only one playing it. I don't know if anyone else is.
I'll be day one.
Oh, there you go. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
I'll put a trailer on there now.
Yeah. I've just mostly been trying to avoid the trailers.
Sorry, I'll turn it off.
No, you can play it. It's all right.
See, this game here, and I'll say it again. And look, I don't play as many games as as all of you combined or anything like that. But this is made in Unreal, and it's one of the most least unreal looking games out there. In terms
that's
of
a good thing.
What it does with third person action adventure games, the frame rate. The fidelity of the facial animations, it's just really, really quite phenomenal. Open world, obviously with Rebirth, and I think that this particular game, Final Fantasy Rebirth, because I can't think of many others off the top of my head, other than Gears, which Stubz will no doubt mention, so I'll mention it for him.
Unreal.
This really,
do you mean like really realism?
Not in realism. In terms of a third-person action-adventure game, RPG, open world, and with the sort of game it's portraying, but still keeping the charisma, the charm, and the visual language and the design language of a Japanese video game, but created in Unreal. I can't think of another game or another studio that uses that tech, or obviously they've repurposed it technically for their own personal needs, but it's a really fantastic advertisement for what Unreal can, in the right hands, what Unreal can do, compared to some of the other offerings from other studios that use Unreal. I mean, Obsidian is another one, right? That's going to be made in Unreal, isn't it? It's an Unreal studio. And you can see the dimensional rift between the qualitative rift between the two. Visually, and again, to Removable's point, visuals don't make a game in its entirety, so take that into consideration as well. But you get the point that I'm trying to make. Shut up now. Back to Masuko's Japan studio opening. Let's go to that.
Yeah. Oh, what a great thing that would be. But yeah, this game looks really promising, and I think like we just said that they I think it was hard thing for them to pull off this thing, to bring a love classic and create it in a more art style that works with the modern technology. So there's technology and then there's the artwork. So they nailed both, and the gameplay is also good. So
it's still Unreal 4, and it's still Unreal 4 as far as I can tell, or as far as I've read. It's still Unreal repurposed Unreal Engine 4.5 or whatever.
It's very good.
So it's really impressive, and the sheer. And I mean, I've seen the trailers, Luke, but the sheer volume of content, just in terms of different environments, monsters, what you're going to play with about 4 additional characters with completely different move sets. and combined with the previous 5, was it, from the original game? No, 4 from the original game, because obviously Red 13 wasn't playable. It's looking to be quite phenomenal, and the turnaround time, what, 3-4 years to 3.5 years or something, or 4 years, is quite good. It's really good. I'm really looking forward to it. And just on Indy's comment about the Prince of Persia trailer, I would like to know why you bought Prince of Persia, Luke, but the trailers don't, and the demo definitely don't do it justice in terms of trying to sell it.
Yeah, I didn't actually buy it. I've got Ubisoft Plus on PC because I picked it up to just see what Avatar looked like, and then I remembered Prince of Persia was coming out the next month, so I just let my subscription go. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it actually since it was announced, because if you look at the announcement trailer in particular, just the diversity of the environments and the movement in particular just looked excellent, and they are excellent, having played the game. So I'll always buy I'm always interested in Metroidvania anyway. But yeah, like, and I also think people should support these type of games more, because this is fucking Ubisoft making this. Like, they don't make stuff like this very often. So like, if you want them to make more interesting stuff, then try and support stuff like this. Particularly if you look at critically, this is done exceptionally well, because it's a really good game. So yeah, it's just, oh man, it's cool. But yeah,
That's true.
Fantasy VII
That's true.
Rebirth. Give me that now.
No,
I want to play it.
No, it's true. It is. Ubisoft are the company that came out a while ages ago saying single player games are dead. Are they? They say a lot of things, don't they? But this generally looks like a really good game.
I think the execs
Ubisoft goes for safe chances. Let's face it, they don't really push boundaries. They're there for the safe sale.
Is it? I've removed on that. I would say that, and we talked about it last week, and I think I mentioned that the amount of talent that Ubisoft have actually got, and the amount of talent that there is in France, and I think if you look at Ubisoft over the last several years, whenever they come out in the press, there's always a massive disconnect between the management and the publishing and the green light process, perhaps, and from the hierarchy. There's a disconnect between the hierarchy and the actual development teams, or the people that run or run the development teams. And yeah, and this, I think Luke's spot on in the fact that this game kind of should go not just doing critically well, perhaps commercially well, but connecting development with the hierarchy, saying, hey, look, this is what we've been trying to do, and this is the disconnect, and perhaps it'll not force, but encourage Ubisoft to produce more games and give studios that little bit more freedom, because really, I think Guillermo is a bit of a control freak when it comes to his company, or the company he's running. I don't know what the shareholding structure is right now, but hopefully it will benefit them going forward, and hopefully others will follow suit. But it'd be good if all the Saga remakes that have got in development was half as good as Prince of Persia is compared to its predecessor.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I've gone off track there completely, have I? Sorry.
Not at all.
No, valid points. That is. Yes.
You're just saying that to be nice.
No,
really.
I'm not. You've got a point, because they brought Prince of Persia back, like the same principle as a lot of the Sega games. They bring them back. They're great. It's good for gaming. It is.
I wasn't sure about Prince of Persia at all. I really wasn't, and I think I
the
expressed
demo
my doubt.
basically probably, if anything, would the demo put you off, didn't it?
And then you bought it.
Yeah, I was struggling. I played the demo. I deleted it. Spoke to Removable, who also said, and then I don't know who. Someone said something. Then I put it on, played it through again, and I thought, you know what? I just a gut feeling. I bought it. I'm glad I bought that then instead of bloody, what was that other game I was going to buy? Removable from Ubisoft. The one that
Fortnite?
Luke just mentioned. No, Luke mentioned it. They also released a game in December. Avatar.
Oh, Avatar.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Avatar has actually got well received as well, actually, if I remember correctly. That's very much that feels like Far Cry from what I'm seeing.
I think critically it wasn't that well received. I think consumer consensus, at least online, seems to be a little better, but not like outstanding or anything.
Luke, I'm just gonna tell you my thumbs are sore after
Yeah, yeah.
I need to redevelop those calluses just in time for Silk Song. Something's happening because
yeah.
my thumbs haven't felt like this since Hollow Knight.
Well, you've got to understand, Removable. Luke just gets a lot of games to see how it looks on his beast PC. Then he can put the pictures on Twitter.
It's literally
what he
Avatar.
doesn't actually play games; he just looks at them. He looks at all the screenshots.
For Avatar, that is 100% a correct
lovely.
assessment
Looks nice.
of what I was doing. I bought. I didn't buy it. I got Ubisoft Plus purely, so I could see it on my PC, and it looks amazing. It's the best looking game I've ever seen in person, but it's not very good beyond that.
All style, no substance, is what I think you were saying.
Yeah, well, in that way, art imitates life, but in this case, game imitates film, because it's the films are the same. They're all style, but not much substance. So
they took all the same premise from Fern Gully.
Unobtainium.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap it up there. It's been a good show.
He's getting tired.
It has.
Just as Masuko was getting warmed up.
Well, Masuko is 2 hours. You were hour ahead, Masuko. Was it 2? I can't remember.
Yeah, 2 hours.
So you're at 1 a.m.
Yes.
We're going to wrap it up anyway. So thanks for coming on, Masuko. It was good of you to come on. It's been a good conversation. I'll probably have to listen to a bit of it because my son wanted me. That's where I disappeared to for a bit. I did, but luckily with this show, the co-hosts with Removable and VJ carry it on. They do for me, which is great. That's why I like the dynamic we've got.
There's always someone who's going to talk, regardless.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Masuko.
Thank you again for inviting me. It's always so much fun to talk with you guys and learn more about the knowledge you know about these games. So I am blessed.
Well, it's more the others on the panel, not me. But but yeah, thanks for coming on. And Luke, thanks for dropping me a WhatsApp to let me know you were free. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure as always with the cast of regulars and Masuko, obviously. Always great. You always ask really good questions.
He does.
I like that.
He always comes up with something. Yeah, always.
So yeah, always a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, at LukeSteele90 on Twitter, X, and then also on the Indie Gamer channel with the Indie Gamer, aka the world's biggest Outer Wilds fan.
Yeah.
And he's also looking forward to Suicide Squad.
And I'll also jump back to Masuko because I forgot. Can you tell people where they can find you, Masuko? Because I forgot.
Yeah, on Twitter, Mizuko_1984. Let's keep in touch.
Thanks for coming on. And VJ, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, good to be on the show again this week. Same again next week, perhaps, unless you're sleeping.
No, I'll be fine. I will. And Removable, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you, very good. And it's great to have, obviously, Masuko and Luke on here. Obviously, two fantastic guests that always bring so much different opinions, so much uniqueness to the conversation that me and VJ would just be us yabbering away, muttering and talking bollocks, to be honest with you. Without, I mean, it's always great to have some guests to kind of push our boundaries and keep us thinking and guessing. And if you are anyone out there listening to this, do follow those two guys. They will be worth your weight in gold following them. For myself, if you are even bothered or even interested in listening to what I say, you can find me on Twitter, Minds, Xbox, and Rumble under the name Removal Sancy.
Thanks, Removal, for coming on,
Ooh.
and we will be back next week. We will. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Luke's the chat. I'm looking at it. VJ, Indie Gamer, Luke Steele, Robbo, HTID. I think I seen Invader Gaming in there earlier, and loads of others. And Paul AFC as well popped in. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Enjoy.